Once, while in Munich, I underwent an unexpectedly bewitching experience in my studio. I was still dreamily absorbed in the work I had been doing when suddenly my eyes fell upon an indescribably beautiful picture that was saturated with an inner glow. I was startled momentarily, then quickly went up to this enigmatic painting in which I could see nothing but shapes and colors, and the content of which was incomprehensible to me. The answer to this riddle came immediately. It was one of my own paintings, leaning on its side against the wall. This was Vasily Kandinsky, an artist of the Blue Rider art movement and close collaborator of Paul Klee, reflecting on the gravity of orientation, the significance of location, and how identification so sensitively depended on both. What might happen if we turn objects on their sides? What might be lost or gained in the flux of uprightness? What happens when we take something out of its place? Words that stand for sideways, oblique, covert, furtive. To go sideways, to commit a crime. To knock sideways, to affect profoundly or dramatically. To look sideways, to look at or regard furtively or improperly. When I came across this tree in the front of my apartment, it did not look like the trees that stood upright around it. It not only held the history of commercialism, capitalism, and social and religious institutions in its trunk and limbs, but seemed to implicitly include everything around it. It pointed sideways to the signs and the people, to the roots and the scraps of paper that compiled under its dead branches. It did not match the aesthetics or politics of illustrations of trees that might come to capture it in time, sterilize it in space, rid it of the interspecies encounters that surely constitute its treeness. These collages adorn and unmap the aesthetic of the botanical illustration to make room for the toppled trees on urban sidewalks. These assemblages cut against quotidian objects, furtively and improperly, cut against commercial products, Manhattan skylines, and sights. Collage 1. Weird. Trees on their sides, the dead branches, the weeds that we step over or pluck up connote what Posnock referred to as the bruising imperative of intimacy. It is often painful to get close, to feel closeness, to unravel boundaries, to knock sideways. Collage 2. Through the bleak streets of the garment district. Trees cross borders, pass through multiple properties, run above and below ground for a terranean and subterranean politics. The tree on this side materializes these paths that lie invisible before us, a kind of counter magic that transgresses the walls and fences and wires we've aligned around us to go sideways. Collage 3. Social quandaries. Co-creating with the more than human to produce more than human futures requires recourse, new forms of knowing and being. Judith Butler writes, "There is a requirement of sociality that emerges from embodied entanglements with the world, where the sensuous dimensions take up the subject in the course of its formation, where individuality is an imagined status, where lives are not, in fact, inseparable. To take the sideway." Collage 4. Sale price. Being sideways disguises background from foreground, imminency from latency, activity from passivity. Here, being sideways foregrounds the remarkable ambivalence of intrusion, the chaos that belies order, to look sideways. Let us open up horizons that are uncozy, overbearing, disoriented, oblique. Let us ask what it might mean to be sideways subjects, open, curvy, radically dislocated. Let us lean into the enigmatic paintings that lean on their side against the wall.